Hey everybody, welcome to Big Valley Living. Tonight we're going to make sausage and peppers. It's a wonderful meal and we know you're going to love it. Stay tuned. Let's go over the ingredients list now. We're going to use some extra virgin olive oil, and you can use your own choice. You're going to need about 2 tablespoons up to maybe 1/3 of a cup, not very much. We're going to use some mild Italian sausage. We buy ours at Costco in 5-packs. So we end up making enough for dinner and at least a couple of pretty good lunches. We'll be using fresh onion, probably 1, but we may cut into 1 1/2. About 4 cloves of fresh garlic. Your garlic will be to taste. Fresh pressed garlic is the best, but garlic salt will work in this recipe just as well. We're going to use 3 green bell peppers. We're going to be seeding them and chopping them into bite-sized pieces. 1 red bell pepper, same thing. 1 orange bell pepper, 1 yellow bell pepper. And we're going to bring it all together, and it is really, really good and really, really easy. We'll be setting up over here at the stove, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, what we're going to do to start is we're going to go ahead and we are going to cover the bottom of our pan with some olive oil. This is approximately 2 tablespoons if you need to have a measurement. I have an electric stove, and I have turned it up to between 7 and 8 to heat up just a little bit, and then we're going to add the sausages. Okay, so we're preheating, and I'm just going to show you a little something here. It's just barely starting to smoke, and you'll see like a shimmer in the oil there. So what we're going to do is put in the sausages. We're going to put them in whole, and they'll slice up easier if you're going to make this into a pot meal. That's what we're going to do. They'll slice up easier once they have cooked partially. Okay, so we're going to let those go for a minute, and I will turn them. In the meantime, I'll go and slice up the peppers and the onions and garlic. One thing that I'm going to suggest is that if you have a splatter guard, put that on top, because this is going to be pretty splattery. And also I had reduced my heat down to about a medium temperature after I put the sausage in. So what I'm going to do now, I've already flipped it about 4 times, and what you want is to brown it like that. That one came through the casing, and that doesn't matter in this case. But you want it to be mostly cooked through, okay? Nice and brown. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove my pan from the heat for a minute. I'm going to take my sausage over to the cutting board, and I'm going to slice it into bite-sized pieces, which will make it much easier when we go to serve it. So we'll be right back. Okay, we have cut the sausage into bite-sized pieces, and as you can see, it is mostly cooked through. Of course, with pork, you want to make sure you get that internal temperature up. I like to get it up to about 170 just to be sure. So we're going to put this in to just brown up the rest of the way. I'm going to just kind of stay here because it isn't going to take long before I have it finished off. And then what we're going to do is remove the sausage. I've decided that I am going to deglaze this pan with a little bit of white wine. And I'll show you this little trick that I learned from my little brother, who's so wise. I don't like white wine very much, so I don't want to buy a bottle to just, have around, and I never know when I'm going to use it. So he told me, hey, buy those little tiny 4-packs, and that way you can go ahead and use a little bit when you need it and not have a bottle sitting around or have to refrigerate it or something for who knows how long. So that's your pro tip right there. Get a teeny tiny little bottle of wine for deglazing. What we've done with our sausage is we've browned it on all sides. It only took a couple of minutes. Now we're going to remove the sausage from the pan before we put the vegetables in. We're going to set it off to the side. Keep it warm. If you're in a drafty spot or you have your air conditioner on, just Maybe just throw it in your oven so that it's not drafty. And it's going to come back into the picture at about the time that the vegetables are ready, and we'll put it all together. The sausage rendered some extra fat, okay? And so there's probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons in here. We do not need that much oil. So I am just going to remove a little bit of that into an oven-safe dish. Okay. And I'm going to reserve about the original 2 tablespoons that we had. Okay. I'm going to put it back on the heat, and now is when we're going to deglaze our pan. So I'm going to open up this little bottle of wine, and it's going to get a little splashy in here. Pour that in gently. It's going to cook off, so I'm going to go ahead and just let it go because I don't have any other use for this. But as you can see, that loosened everything up, and we want those little bits. It's called fond. We want these little bits to help flavor the vegetables that we're getting ready to brown, and there we go. Smells good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it up to about 8. Pour the rest of that wine in there. Alright, so we are letting this reduce just a little bit and get nice and hot before we add the onions. I've cut up both of those onions that I showed you earlier, and it ended up being about 4 cups. You don't have to use that much if you don't want, but onions really give this a nice flavor, especially when we caramelize them a little bit. These are going to break up as I cook them. And as soon as they start getting translucent and somewhat soft, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of fresh crushed garlic. We'll be back in a minute when these are where we want them to be to add the garlic. Alrighty, and here we are, ready to rock and roll. So I just want you to see how pretty the peppers look layered in that bowl. Isn't that cool? We ended up with 8 cups of peppers from the peppers that I showed you at the beginning. And another thing I want to make note of is that we had 1.5 pounds of sausage. So if you buy your sausage at the meat counter, or you have a favorite chicken sausage you use, that is a point of reference for you for how much we use. Look at the absolutely gorgeous colors in this meal. It is so pretty. I'm telling you guys, I love these bamboo tools, utensils for the cooking. I have a link to those in every one of my videos from Truly Tailored Designs on Etsy, so go check her out. She's got lots of cool things. Now we're going to let these cook down for a few minutes, and while I let them kind of sit here, I want to tell you where this recipe came from. My Aunt Sherie Piccininni from Detroit, Michigan, was here visiting about 10 years ago, and she made this amazing sausage and peppers recipe for us, and we've been eating it ever since. We especially like them in the summertime because it's a hearty meal, but it's also really light, and of course peppers are ripe in California in the summertime, so whenever we have a bountiful garden, this is a good way to use a lot of peppers. It also will yield a nice leftover lunch that heats up beautifully in the microwave the next day. So thank you, Aunt Sherie. This is one of our family's favorites. I'll be adding just a little bit of salt and pepper to this. If you chose to use garlic salt instead of fresh garlic, omit the salt later on, or it'll be a little bit too salty for you. Well, this isn't quite a stir fry. It is a lot like a stir fry. So you want to keep your heat somewhat high with your vegetables in there because you really don't want to, be doing that a lot. I put about a teaspoon of salt in this, probably a little bit less. Ooh, that was loud. And now we're just going to put some freshly ground pepper in there. You can pepper it to your liking, and you don't need to put any in if you don't. And if you're not familiar with bell peppers, they are not spicy at all. They're very sweet. So this is not going to be an overly spicy meal if you're sensitive, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to get these vegetables cooked through and get them nice and hot, but we don't want them to be soggy. So I'm going to cook them for just a couple more minutes, and I will be back to add the sausage, and we'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, these are perfect. They're nice and warm and heated through. You'll see that the onion still has the tiniest bit of color to it. I don't like to get them too soggy because, again, this is just a really nice light crispy meal. Very refreshing. So now I'm going to get the sausage that we had drained right off to the side there. And in it goes. I did save a little bit off for the poochies, in case you wanted to know. We're going to heat it through everything together. And I will tell you that you could cut the peppers just the tiniest bit smaller, leave the sausage whole, and you could serve it, you know, hot dog style or chili dog style on a bun if you wanted to. That is how my Aunt Sherie said that they typically eat it at their house, and we typically eat it like this. And we don't even put it over anything because it just has so much flavor in it that it's a standalone meal, one pot. I also want to make note, this is a deep frying pan, everybody. You can see this is probably about 2 inches thick, and you just don't want to have food flopping all over the place. So this is it. This is sausage and peppers. We're going to plate it up, and we'll see you in just a minute. Thanks again for joining Big Valley Living tonight for our sausage and peppers recipe. This recipe took us about a half hour start to finish, and we will have leftovers for lunch for both of us, at least one lunch. So if you like this video, please do us a favor and like it. And if you would like to share this with people, that will help us as well. Share it on any of your social media channels. And we would love it if you would subscribe, and that will allow you to be notified every time we have a new video. So thanks a lot, everybody, for joining Big Valley Living. Be kind to everybody and have a super day.